Guys, I want to invite you to our Facebook group. It's Owner Operator Forum. So if you join, you're going to be with a lot of like-minded people, trucking business oriented. Jose and I are there answering questions. We have a lot of behind the scenes and extra footage. So Owner Operator Forum Facebook group. Join right now. We're also hiring. If you're a driver or an owner operator looking for a safe place and a good place to be, head us up at erateam.us. It's erateam.us, and you will have instructions how to reach out to us, and we would be more than happy to have you on our team.
But the goal would be, if we can make a better product with a synthetic that lasts longer, it doesn't break down as quickly. That means case by case basis, you can potentially extend your drain, not have to change the oil as often, so now you're using less oil.
Wendy, how's it going?
Good.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Finally, we made it.
Yes.
You were supposed to come a little earlier, but things didn't work out. How's everything going with you?
Man, it is so crazy in the industry right now. I feel like I'm barely scraping by.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good to be busy. Business is definitely up from last year, with COVID and everything. And I feel fortunate that I work with trucking and construction because during COVID I didn't really slow down, that those industries kept rolling. But there's definitely a difference now between last year and this year so far. And all of the crazy changes, I'm sure you see with inflation, product shortages, driver shortages, it makes getting product from point A to point B very difficult right now.
Yes.
So dealing with those fires and headaches.
Yeah, it is crazy. But tell us who you present, what do you do? Let's just start with that.
So I am basically just a glorified sales rep in the field. I work for Rilco Lubricants, and we represent Shell brand products as well as some of our own brands. I basically go around and try to get new accounts for them and promote them and really I just like to help people. That's the fun that I have, is coming into a shop like yours, getting a feel for what they're doing, seeing if there's anything I can help them with. And even if you don't want to become a customer, I love what I do so much that if someone needs a resource, because this, between all the OEMs and what they require and everything that's on the market, it can get pretty confusing to try to figure out what you need to be using. And that's where I like to help. That's my favorite part, is the technical side, the recommendation side, to take your questions and try to find the right answer.
Okay.
And so I have people who don't work with me that know I like to help, that will shoot me a message and say, hey, I've got this coming into the shop for repairs. What do I use? What the heck's going on here? And I love those.
So we'll get to that. So you are, would you consider yourself an oil expert then?
Not to where I would like to be, right? Like I probably deal with a little bit of that imposter syndrome, but I'm good at finding the answers. I study a lot. I've put myself through a lot of certifications and things, but most of, I would say, what we do comes with experience. And so, I'm 8 years into the industry, into this role, but my 20, 30-year veteran counterparts know a lot more than I do, for sure. Yeah. So we'll get there,
Okay.
I do my best.
That's good. Well, let's see. Let's test you out. Well, first, I was gonna what you mentioned it a little bit. What inspired you to get into this?
It was totally by chance. I was kind of lost coming out of school. I had worked in the health and fitness industry forever. Didn't know, thought medical industry, didn't want to go for 4 more years of school and get more debt. I went the route that everybody told you had to do and go 4-year university, get your degree, get all this debt. Wish I would have known that there were other paths to take, which is why I promote a lot of the trades now on some of the things I do. But I was working here in Chicago at a fitness club and doing sales, and a woman came in to buy a membership, and she was a manager at a local distributor here, an oil distributor, who's now a competitor of mine.
Okay.
And said, hey, I like your personality. I think you'd be great for this position I have open. Why don't you come interview? And, at this time I decided I was going to be a police officer.
Okay.
So I was doing a lot of ride-alongs and stuff and testing. And I said, I'm flattered. Thank you. But this is what I'm doing. She was so persistent that I said, what the heck? I'm going to go see what it's about.
Mhm.
I had never been exposed. This was in Elk Grove here.
Okay.
Big industrial park here in Chicago. Had never been around that type of industry with everything going on and moving. And I was like, this is kind of cool, And they offered a salary. It was for a marketing position.
Mhm.
Coming out of college with all this debt, it was like, okay, all right, salary. Let's try it. We'll see how it goes. And from there, I was not so good at the marketing stuff. That was a very high level things that I didn't have experience with. So I'll admit I was not a good employee for that role.
Okay.
6 months in, they switched things around and kind of eliminated my position, which was a nice way of getting rid of me.
Mhm.
And I don't blame them. I was lost, but I decided I loved it. I wanted to be in the field. I reached out to one of the reps that they had with a lot of experience and said, hey, I like this. Can I shadow you a little bit and see what it's like out there? And so I did. And he was more industrial, so we went into the steel mills down in Gary.
Mhm.
And that was my first real exposure to it in the field. And it was like, okay, I want to do this. I saw that a competitor was hiring, which is my last company. I never would have thought. I've worked for all 3 Shell distributors here in Chicago now. And I saw they had a position open for a sales rep, and I went for an interview and got the job the same day, and it really lit a fire under me. And I was able to now kind of make some of the connections with what I was seeing on the marketing side and on the back side with what's going on in the field. And that fire that I had led me to become self-certified, put myself through different programs and trainings and try to become an expert and really learn it. And so here I am.
How many years into it?
8 years.
8.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's dig in. I would say I'm trying to see where I can start with actually. So what's the function of an oil? And let's start with basics. Like let's talk about semis, right? Particularly semi trucks. Our guys are, they know more or less the general information around. Hey, I got to change my fuel oil every certain mileage. But what's oil really? What does it do to an engine?
Lubrication 101.
Yes.
All right.
And
Well,
then we'll go to 201.
Your main thing, right, is to prevent wear from friction, because you've got all those moving parts touching each other in there.
Mhm.
So you're preventing that wear from occurring. You are removing heat. You're cleaning it. So in like an engine oil that would go in a truck, you have detergents. So you're keeping the oil clean and suspending any debris and contaminants that get in there. Really, I would say those are the 3 main functions of the oil that you guys are using.
Okay, so what's 15W40?
So this is a multi-grade oil. What a multi-grade used to have straight weights back in the day. So it would just be a 40 weight, a 50 weight, a 30 weight.
Mm-hmm.
Now they've improved technology to where you have what is called a viscosity improver, a VI improver, which is a little polymer that's in these oils that allows them to maintain their viscosity, so their weight, across multiple temperature ranges. So your 15 is your winter, your W stands for winter in there, and that's how the oil is going to act in the cold, and your 40 is how the oil is going to act in the hot. So you cover a lot of temperature ranges within that one oil.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Okay.
in the diesel world, you have your 3 main viscosity weights that you could use. You've got your 1540, your 10W30, and your 5W40. There is new stuff coming out now where they've got these multi-use products that can be used in both gas engines and diesel engines, and those are usually a 530, but they haven't gained much steam yet. They're still pretty new on the market. You won't see OEMs recommending that yet.
Okay. Perfect. Synthetic or conventional? What's the difference?
Well, conventional is really being phased out. It's getting harder and harder to find, and there's less and less manufacture of it. It's going to synthetic blend or synthetic. Pretty soon you won't be able to get conventional anymore.
Why is that?
Well, you've got all your requirements from, government industries who are saying we need to tighten emissions. We need to make it a lot more environmentally friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And so manufacturers are kind of trying to get ahead of that. And by saying we're going to make these things more efficient in anticipation for more government regulation to come out.
Okay. Meaning synthetics are more efficient.
Yes.
In let's talk about maybe in what way is synthetic.
So synthetics are essentially perfect, right? Like every molecule, every chain in that oil is the same. Whereas a conventional or a syn blend, you have little guys who are kind of all over the place. Nothing is perfect. Whereas in a synthetic, it is perfect. So you're going to get the same results every time. You have a less chance, it takes a lot longer for that oil to break down. But really where you see some of this, and I know you have a question that you're going to get to here about emissions.
What are you talking about? I have no questions.
Where people make the mistake is there's less emissions tied to the oil versus the fuel, right? Oil, now you're going to lighter viscosities. So they're lighter weight, so they're easier to pump through the engine faster. It takes less effort to get that through the engine. You're going to get better cold start protection on the lighter viscosities because they can flow in there quicker in the cold, and there's less wear occurring. But the goal would be, if we can make a better product with a synthetic that lasts longer, it doesn't break down as quickly. That means case by case basis, you can potentially extend your drain, not have to change the oil as often, so now you're using less oil. And then if that oil is more efficient, you'd be improving your fuel economy. It's very minimal.
It's minimal.
Someone like you
you
might see it because your trucks are going on a lot farther. You might be going coast to coast, so you're going to see that fuel economy. Whereas most of the fleets around here that I deal with are just local, regional, a lot of stop and go, a lot of high idle. They're not going to see that fuel economy improvement by switching over to a synthetic, whereas someone like you probably is.
Yeah. So I also do regional. We do OTR, but it takes a little bit of effort to actually track that saving, which is why. So when I was an owner op, I paid attention to all that, right? But then all of a sudden, when you start building a fleet, you really have to create an extra way of tracking it and eliminating the variables and trying to figure out, okay, is this really paying off to switch to full synthetic? And to be honest with you, tell me maybe if you agree with me here, or when you're buying a new truck, it makes sense. But when you're starting to rack up miles in the 500,000 plus, does the synthetic still do its job, or is it safe to switch if you didn't have the synthetic?
Yeah, I would say yes, but it's so case specific, right? So it depends on how that specific driver handles his truck.
And maybe the health of the truck and engine itself. The truck, right?
Yep, right, because lighter oils, they can slip through the cracks a little easier. So if you have an older truck that has separation and leaking issues, you're gonna deal with that on a lighter oil. But the oil itself will still hold up better, like it's designed to stay together longer. The additive package is stronger. You're going to get more protection for a longer period of time. I see, Rotella is a big one that on their marketing promotes their 500,000 million plus people that use their synthetic products. They glorify that, that we've got all these people using this product, and they're well over 1 million miles because they've used our product. So really, I would say it's really case specific. Yeah, I agree. So you just have to understand your engine and know if it's safe or if it's actually going to help you or not. And that's what, like oil testing it comes in, if you've got oil analysis available and you're really trying to keep an eye on that, I would recommend it. That would help.
I've done that. What do you think about purification systems, on-unit purification systems? Have you had experience with anybody that's maybe using it in their fleet, or do you know what I'm talking about? You can just clean that oil and just keep testing the oil, and then you just use it for 250,000 miles or however long, because you don't have to drop it. You just keep. Have you heard about that?
I have not had any experience with this, at least in the trucking side. So I see this more on the manufacturing side, where people have like secondary filtration systems to try to help
extend the cycle. So in trucking, you have systems that it's an additional unit, and it just filters the oil, and all you do every 15 or 20 or whatever your interval changes are. You put a new filter in, and you pull a test and you send it for a lab and see what actually is
I
happening.
would say that that's very efficient. That's
it
a
is.
great idea.
Yeah. So it's been a while since I've looked into this, but I considered it when I was driving. I considered it, and I started digging into it. But I don't really have experience using it, but I've known people that have been using it, and they've been very happy with it. So then you can just you can run the oil as long as
the oil holds
it's
up.
Healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it holds up, right?
Yep. I would say that's probably a great option for someone who has a large fleet that uses a lot of oil. That could be a good cost saver.
So so what makes oil is can oil be old? Let's say the truck sits, right? How does that work as far as what happens with the oil?
So if in this case, if a truck is sitting, really the oil's not getting used, so the oil itself is not breaking down, right? I mean, it would take years for the additive package to really break down. Someone told me once that if you're at a store and you're buying a jug of oil, if you see it suctioned in like it's got a vacuum in it, that means that the additive package has broken down. To be wary of that, but really, as long as the oil is in a clean environment, it's going to last a very long time. But now, if that truck is sitting, depending on where it's at, you get a lot of water in there. You get a lot of dust and debris that's probably getting in there, and that's where it's safe to it's cheap insurance, right? To change it.
Swap it.
If that truck hasn't moved in a year, I'd say a year is probably a good mark to drop it and just put fresh oil in as your cheap insurance policy.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So we've touched on briefly on the emissions. So is that why, because you've talked about it already, but I kind of recap, is that why the manufacturers now recommend 35 to 50,000 changes? Why is that?
That's more of they have done all this testing. They've tried different products in different circumstances, and they have found in their own research that it is safe to say you can utilize oil for this many miles between these drain intervals. But again, it is all case specific, and depending on what your fleet is doing, how the operators are handling it, how you're taking care of that oil. But it's less to do with emissions than one might think. There's a small amount that goes into that, but it's more or less, hey, how are we going to cover ourselves when we recommend this?
Yeah.
We've done all this research that says we'll be safe, legally we're going to be safe if we say they can change their mile or their oil within these drain intervals.
Yeah. Interesting. In regards to trucking, what's the biggest mistake you see owner-ops or fleets or truck owners do?
And this is really across the board. It's the cleanliness of the oil in the shop. It's how they treat that oil once they purchase it, once it's delivered, however they're receiving it. Especially, we're talking about businesses here where you have a large shop like this. How do they take care of the tank? Is there cross-contamination? Is that oil breathing in a whole lot of dust and debris while it sits there in the tank before it goes into the truck? Do they know ahead of time what they're able to do, how they can consolidate products, where they can't consolidate products? Is their mechanic quick rushed? Is he grabbing a jug of this and it's accidentally hydraulic oil or coolant or something and putting it in the engine?
Yeah.
It's those types of little things that can be fixed through some support from someone like me, where I can come in and make sure everything's labeled right, where we've got proper transfer containers. If you don't have reels and things, making sure your reels and things are labeled right, helping you with your fleet list to find out where you can consolidate, where it's safe to, where it's not safe to. That's where I see, in my opinion, in my experience, most of the mistakes coming from.
Okay, so at the source, not really the drivers and the fleet owners, it's at the source of where you do your maintenance and your oil changes. Okay, interesting. So is that how, so since you mentioned that, how is that what you see in medium-sized, because I consider myself a medium-sized shop, right? And I think we would agree. You said large. I don't think it's a large shop, but is that what you see in the medium-sized market as far as shops?
Yes.
What's the state of the condition of oil when you go into those places?
Well, medium-sized business, small business. I mean, these people have, Usually one person's wearing a lot of hats, right?
Mhm.
So things get overlooked. They're stressed. They have a lot of things to take care of and handle. And so mistakes can be made pretty easily and quickly. So yes, I have had quite a few customers call me and say, oh my gosh, somebody put coolant in the engine. What do I do? What does this mean?
Mhm.
Or we had a test oil sample come back. We don't understand it. What did we do here? What's happening in this engine? Or did the guy stop off to top up his sump? He put in the wrong thing. It's those types of things where I feel like they have so much going on that it's hard for them to pay attention to what's really happening. Understandably so, right?
Mhm.
But that's where they hopefully have a good partner in their provider, in their sales rep, whoever it is, to help them kind of wear some of those hats and
Mhm.
eliminate the chances for those things happening.
So meaning you're pretty much adding value to the shop owner. Hey, let me be, be a resource to you,
Yes.
which is
That's the goal anyway.
Yeah, but do you see that on your side? How your type of role, obviously, that's been on the it's also an older industry, just like trucking or diesel repair. Have you seen that support from your type of role?
Well, I try to do it as best I can,
and you're doing it very well.
But I mean, it's tough. It's tough to sell some people on that extra service and that value. A lot of people, I would say, someone like in your age range, my age range, the younger guys who are coming in now, who are in these fleet manager roles, do have that. They like to be more, I'm going to look at the OEM, the manual. I'm going to talk to my sales rep and find out what my options are. I'm going to do some research and use the tools that are available to me. Whereas that older generation is kind of like, I've been doing this for years. I know what's best.
Exactly.
Which, you know what? I appreciate that. They know a lot. And if it works for them, it works for them. There's a place for that. But
Exactly.
But, it's dependent for sure.
Yeah, and I see you coming in as help, as somebody that, the younger generation gets into the industry in the era of social media and that's the the value add is on your end. Hey, like, I'll sell you oil, but at the same time, I'm going to help you make sure. And that's how I do things in general, right? Like I go into business relationships and vendors that offer me the extra support, and that trust is there, right? That they're not just playing me to just sell me that, which I can spot that but not just me in particular. I think people have a good radar for that, right? When somebody's BSing versus, hey, I'm here to really help and add some extra value. But okay, what about if a driver has a leak on the road? And I know it's kind of basic, but I want to make sure just we cover that. Like when they're losing oil and they have to add oil because they're burning, what's the safest solution if he's not sure what it is, if it's not his truck, or if he does know, obviously he knows what to buy, but what would you do in a situation? Or would you recommend it's the safest option for people to refill their oil and when they're on the road?
Sure. So if they know what they're using, the best thing to do would be to try to find that product if they can. Most products now, my 1540 is going to be really, really similar to the next guy's 1540, as long as it's a quality branded, well-known branded product. You're not going to lose much of your protection that you have in these products by going from brand to brand. So Rotella to Delvac or Dello or whatever else, some of the large majors that are out there, you're not going to see much of a difference if you go from, where you have to be careful is switching viscosities. So if you've got 1540 in there and you go to 540, now the 1540 is usually conventional, the 540 is synthetic. So now you're going to dilute the synthetic properties of that. You're going to lose that. That's fine. You're really not going to, as long as you're not going to push that beyond the drain interval, or you're going to deal with it when you can, you're going to be safe.
But you would recommend
trying to stick with, obviously, the politically correct answer, trying to stick with what the OEM recommends. So whatever he can see in his manual or on the engine. And if you can't do that, just finding a good quality rated diesel product within one of the categories, 1540, 1030, 540, whatever is available to him or her at that time.
Okay.
Now, I wouldn't say, if you're talking about engine oils not available to them, that's a whole nother
That's a whole
story.
different
We,
thing,
you
yeah.
know,
I don't think there's much you can do in that case.
yes.
But I've seen some creative things, but
I'm sure.
at the same time, so if I do mix it, right, if I don't have a choice and I'm at a little station, they have one oil and I use it,
Mhm.
how quickly do I have to change it back to what I had, and is that going to affect anything?
Again, it's all case by case. You know, if you're driving up mountains and you're putting that engine to work and it's hot and it's, you know, or if you're having blow by issues, or if you've got all that kind of stuff where the oil's being put to the test sooner than later.
Mhm.
But, you know, if not, if you're just making a pretty easy run, you're fine. You know, if that's your normal here to there,
Mhm.
you're going to be okay. Everything that's on the market today that's branded is pretty darn high quality and is going to hold up to the test.
Okay. What are some of the common questions you get from guys, from owners, for truck owners, from shop owners? What's coming back to, like, what do you hear a lot?
What do I use? You know,
Okay.
hey, I have this unit coming in. What do I, like I had a customer, he's a smaller fleet, but a beautiful fleet, and takes very good care of it. They're on all 1540. He's getting his first post-emissions truck in now, so he's going to have to carry DEF, and that specific unit calls for 1030.
Mm-hmm.
So he calls me and he says, you know, I really don't want to have to carry two products. What can I do here? What's really going on? You know, and then there's the politically correct answer, and then there's the real answer that you can get to underneath that says, you know what, as long as it is a diesel product, you can use 1540, 1030, 540. You're going to be safe with any one of these. Even though the OEM's calling for 1030, you're going to be fine using 1540 in it.
Mm-hmm.
Really, you know, you don't want to void the warranty if you're worried about warranty issues and stuff, but at the end of the day, the difference in the viscosities is for temperature ranges, and there's not a big enough temperature swing in the United States, the continental United States, to worry about switching between a 1540 and a 540 or a 1030.
Mhm.
You're not going to lose your protection no matter which one you use. So I told that person, you know, go ahead and consolidate. You're fine putting the 1540 in it. So really, I think that's where most of my questions come on the trucking side is, this OEM calls for this. This is what I carry. What can I do? Or what should I carry? How can I consolidate? You know,
Okay.
that would be the
Something like
biggest question I
Okay.
think I'm getting.
Perfect. When can people find you? Can you tell me about a little bit your social media?
Yes, so I'm the Oil Lady on Instagram mainly. It's at the .oil.lady. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok.
Okay, so
Where all
what's
the
your
cool
YouTube
kids
channel?
are.
Yeah.
The YouTube, just go on and search for the Oil Lady.
Okay.
And you'll find me.
The Oil Lady, and then Instagram, right? I
Yep.
know your Instagram account. So the Oil Lady is your Instagram.
Yep.
Same thing with YouTube.
Yep. And then I
Wha-
have a website too where I try to put the most pertinent information that I think the most need to know stuff for people.
Mhm.
Cut through all the BS. Here's what's happening. Here's what you need to know. Here's some tools you can use on my website, and that's the-oil-lady.com.
Okay. And people can find you there, contact you if they have any
Yep.
questions, and you're gonna get thousands of emails right now just because how popular we are.
That's okay. I'm for it.
Yeah, you might get some new customers, but yeah, check Wendy out, and we're probably missing, but I would like to have you on more, maybe
Yeah.
about some deep dives around
Yep.
oil. This is just
We can get into specific topics for
yeah.
sure. I'm happy to do that.
and then it's a pretty broad topic that we can cover, but thank you for coming. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and subscribe, share, and we'll talk to you soon.